Good morning, Thailand. My name is Alex.
And I'm Jay.
And we have some news updates from around the land of smiles for you today on Good Morning Thailand this beautiful Friday, January 10th.
Yeah.
Before we begin, please remember to subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. Now, today, we will be talking about pollution, landing some high-profile figures in the hospital, controversy over a Thai influencer's appearance on a South Korean game show, and a little later, arrests have been made in the assassination of a former Cambodian MP in Thailand. But first, we have a mysterious story coming out of Phuket as a British tourist was found dead and naked off of Phuket Beach after a mysterious encounter. So, the death of a 28-year-old British tourist, Regan Kelly, has left authorities puzzled after his naked body was found floating off Patong Beach in Phuket. CCTV footage showed Kelly in an intense conversation with an unknown man shortly before heading toward the beach. Witnesses reported seeing him acting strangely, possibly under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Later, the same unidentified man was seen following him in the direction of the shore. Authorities are now investigating whether foul play was involved. The British Embassy has been notified, and Kelly's family has called for a second autopsy in the UK, suspecting that crucial details may have been overlooked in the initial investigation. Police are gathering forensic evidence and interviewing witnesses to determine the exact circumstances surrounding his death. This was a weird, mysterious story. It seems like there is a suspect involved, but they haven't caught him.
And it feels like there might be foul play involved.
Yes, I mean, it's certainly the circumstances surrounding it do appear that way. But by all accounts, this guy was just here on a backpacking trip, a very nice, serious, mature person. This is definitely not how you want your holidays to end up. But also, again, calling out the warning that, any sort of altercation, crazy is abound, man. Yeah. You never know when you're going to run into crazy and when it's going to rear its ugly head. So be defensive and be on your toes, especially in unfamiliar environments. Heart goes out to the family. Hopefully we can get to the bottom of this and some justice can be doled out to any responsible parties.
For now, we're going to move on to our next story that takes us to Pattaya, in particular a pet hospital where firefighters launch balcony rescue. Chaos erupted at Dr. Jha Animal Hospital in Pattaya when a fire broke out, trapping 6 people, including 2 children, on the 3rd floor. Smoke quickly filled the building, causing panic among those inside. Firefighters arrived promptly and used a ladder to rescue all the stranded residents from the balcony. Witnesses described hearing screams for help as flames threatened to spread further. Despite the intense heat and thick smoke, emergency responders managed to control the fire before it could engulf the entire hospital. Fortunately, no one was injured, but the building sustained extensive damage. The cause of the fire is still under investigation, though initial reports suggest an electrical short circuit may be responsible.
Yeah. Normal in Thailand, I hate to say it, like electrical fires seem to be breaking out all over the place.
Absolutely. And again, like when a lot of these stories happen, we find out that it's under the not in the regulations of the safety standard, or there weren't proper fire exits. But before we make any judgments, let's let the investigation finish and see what measures were in place to.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, the rescuers were able to get there and brave the fires and get everybody out unscathed. But at the same time, it's just, it's very frustrating. I mean, everybody knows. Like, you could see it on the streets, right? The whole spaghetti twirl of electrical wires everywhere. You got to, like, dodge them on the bikes and hope you don't get shocked and things like that. And we've covered stories like this in the past where it's the obvious culprit. So, especially at a hospital, of all places, like a pet hospital, I guess. But that is exactly some place where you would expect there to be a little bit more adherence to regulations and things. So anyways, hopefully get to the bottom of this. And it would be nice to see regulators actually enforce these building codes in a more effective way so that this doesn't become news. Anyways, moving on. Toy Boy Alien says, don't do drugs in Thailand. Well, apparently our next story, a lot of people will not be, as Thai border police have seized meth and quote-unquote happy water worth millions. So Thai Border Patrol Police in Nakhon Phanom province intercepted a massive drug shipment smuggled from Laos across the Mekong River up there in the Golden Triangle area. Officers seized 240,000 methamphetamine tablets, also known as yaba, along with a significant quantity of happy water, a synthetic party drug popular in Thai nightlife. The bus followed an intelligence tip-off about drug traffickers planning to use small boats to smuggle narcotics into Thailand under the cover of night. Authorities launched a high-speed chase along the river, forcing traffickers to abandon their cargo and flee. Officials believe the drugs were intended for distribution in Bangkok and other major cities.
You love a good happy water.
Allegedly. No, yeah, this is a weird thing in Thailand because, okay, drugs bad.
Yes.
Smuggling bad.
Yes.
But it's a major party culture here in Thailand. And there are plenty of Europeans and things like that where it's a much more normalized part of their culture.
Yeah. Happy water, going with the word, it makes you happy. A lot of party goers do that. Yaba, I think, is on a whole nother level, man.
That's the scary stuff, man.
Yeah.
Methamphetamine.
It's as cheap as 10 baht sometimes.
Yeah, it's wild.
Laced with God knows what.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's just a hub, isn't it? Thailand's just like a hub of yaba.
Yeah, yabba dabba don't, I say.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's one of those things where it's just so cheap, it's so accessible, you can make it anywhere. We've all seen Breaking Bad, and it's a big thing for a lot of the working class here in Thailand. So it's a big issue. It's not just for travelers and party goers. They're not usually the ones that are partaking.
Yeah.
It's a big issue with local Thai communities, especially rural ones too. So big bust. Millions of street value lost, a win for the Thai authorities on their war on drugs.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the awful pollution in Bangkok, because Bangkok's PM 2.5 pollution has landed a politician's father in the ICU. Kun Suchat V, deputy leader of the Democratic Party, shared how PM 2.5 air pollution severely impacted his father, who was hospitalized with bronchial inflammation, respiratory issues, and carbon dioxide buildup after daily exposure during morning exercises. The pollution has also affected his children, highlighting the pervasive health threat it poses to Bangkok residents. Bangkok, often ranking among the world's most polluted cities, recently faced severe smog due to farmland burning and stagnant air masses. Authorities warn the pollution levels are expected to rise further due to cold air trapping pollutants. Hopefully now we can get some more news around this crop burning and eventually do something about this pollution.
Yeah, it's very frustrating because it's, it happens every year. It seems like it's always this time of year something happens. It's supposed to be like high season too. Another thing that is highlighting in this story is, all right, when it is polluted outside, that is exactly the wrong time to go out and try to exercise because you are breathing in a lot more. You're respirating a whole lot more. So there's more coming in, more coming out, especially if you're older and one of those demographics that is more susceptible to damage from this kind of stuff. Stay inside and do your exercises and things like that because the worst can happen. Fortunately, he's in the hospital receiving treatment, but still not out of the woods, man. ICU is no joke.
Yeah.
So be careful, everybody. All right, on to our next story, which is we're crossing borders now.
Yep.
Everybody's been talking about games coming out of South Korea.
Yeah.
Not the Squid Games this time, unfortunately. South Korean game show scandal. A Thai influencer has revealed losing earnings after her appearance. So Thai influencer Chutima Nan Kinsuntia has come forward with allegations against a South Korean game show producer who failed to pay contestants their promised earnings. The show, which featured international influencers, abruptly ended after its organizers vanished, leaving participants without compensation for their time and efforts. Nan, who had been featured prominently on the program, revealed that she and others had been lured with promises of lucrative payouts and global exposure. However, after the show's unexpected cancellations, payments never materialized. Attempts to contact the production team were met with silence, and it was later discovered that the main producer had fled Thailand. So, I feel like it's very easy for these producers to sort of get away. It shouldn't be that easy. It's a TV show, there's production, and, you're dealing with famous people that have followings and things like that. Gone into the wind.
Yeah.
No recourse. So she's trying to bring some attention to it. But what happens in this situation? Do they still air the footage? Or
I think, yeah. I mean, once they probably paid the money. Oh, sorry, they haven't paid the money, but she must have signed a contract. They can, once you've signed a certain contract, they own your rights and they can just do it.
I suppose, but then in that contract, shouldn't there be stipulations for payments? So
probably.
I don't know. It's a weird
Normally,
story.
it's always in favor of the person making the contract. I'm guessing it's them, and she must have read over the contract, and the reason she's creating such a big fuss about it is because she didn't get her.
Yeah.
She didn't get her way.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't get paid apparently for.
She must have contacted them first, being like, "Hey, am I gonna get paid?" And they're like, "No." Okay, it's like, "All right, I'm gonna make a fuss about this."
make a big stink about it. Well, I mean, there
Deservedly
is no,
so if she hasn't been paid.
I mean, that's the thing. There's a big focus of her on the show. Like, there is no show without these people. So, like, I don't know. Producers can be real scummy in a lot of ways. And
aren't you a producer?
I am, and I am equally scum. Like, no,
Makes sense.
Yeah. In any case, pay your talent. I think is the moral there. There we go.
Well, we're gonna move on to some of our last stories from Thailand. A Isaan hero steps in to rescue abused 7-year-old boy living alone. A heart-wrenching case in Kalasin province has drawn nationwide attention after a 7-year-old boy known as Ice was found living alone in a squalid conditions after suffering abuse. The boy was reportedly abandoned and left to fend for himself after being physically assaulted by an unknown drug addict. Local hero Tanashat, a community volunteer, stepped in to provide emergency care after discovering the child in distress. Ice was found malnourished, wearing tattered clothes and showing signs of physical trauma. Tanashat alerted local authorities, who have since launched an investigation into the abuse and neglect. The case has sparked discussions about child welfare and the need for better protection systems for vulnerable children in rural Thailand.
The boy has been placed under temporary care from the government. That's a good thing, but just the fact that something like this can happen in the first place, left to fend for himself, abused by a drug dealer, like 7 years old, this is some trauma that is going to be with him for the rest of the life.
I mean, by rural Thailand, what we also sometimes, miss out to say, it is kind of like the wild, wild west out there. There are certain provinces that you've probably never heard of, certain places. And they're so remote sometimes that people can get away with such kind of behavior.
Well, and this is one of those problems where we talk about Yaba and it's easy access and cheap prices is really ravaging these communities in rural Thailand, where that kind of flies under the radar sometimes, and this kind of abuse doesn't often get this kind of attention. So good on this Good Samaritan for stepping forward and being a hero to this boy, and now hopefully with all of this attention, he'll be able to get the support that he needs to live a normal life, not one wrought with abuse like he was suffering before.
Yeah.
Sad stuff. Well, anyways, on to our next stories. We're out of Thailand now, guys. We are into the ASEAN section of our news, where we got Indonesia is just sucking it to big corporations, and next on the chopping block is apparently Unilever, as their Indonesia headache worsens with a boycott as local brands seize their opportunities. So Unilever is facing a severe backlash in Indonesia as a growing boycott against its products continues to damage sales and reputation. The boycott, driven by accusations of environmental harm, exploitative labor practices, and support for controversial policies, has led to a shift in consumer preferences towards local brands. Social media campaigns have fueled the movement, with activists urging people to abandon Unilever's products in favor of homegrown alternatives. Analysts warned that if the trend continues, it could significantly impact Unilever's market dominance in Southeast Asia. In response, the company has attempted damage control, issuing statements reaffirming its commitment to sustainability, raised eyebrows, and ethical business practices. However, trust in the brand remains low, and experts predict long-term consequences if Unilever fails to address public concerns effectively.
Indonesia, man. Indonesia does not mess around.
Yeah, good on them. Screw them. I don't know. I don't really care. This is a big corporation. They're known for all sorts of bad, destructive practices, including like palm oil harvesting, that it really does a number on the environment.
Yeah.
So what they're trying to combat it with is statements like, "Oh, we're sorry, but not a lot of action." So good on the Indonesian social media campaigners out there campaigning for local alternatives. I think it's a great story.
Yeah, it would be a disaster if we can't get our Indomie noodles. Have you ever tried it? Indomie is the Indonesian mama noodles.
Oh, it sounds really
Indomie is so good.
Is that a mee goreng thing or no?
Yeah, mee goreng.
Nice.
Yeah, Indomie.
Ooh, oh my God, I could go for some of that right now. Miss breakfast. But anyways.
Maybe we should get some Migo repacks here.
That sounds good to me.
I will sponsor it.
Oh, hell yeah.
For the team.
Let's do it. All right.
But then again, maybe I shouldn't. It's very unhealthy.
Well, I mean, so is a lot of stuff.
Moving on.
Tastes good.
Let's talk a little bit about Cambodia. Now, the Thai police seek arrest of a suspected killer of former Cambodian lawmaker. Thai authorities are intensifying efforts to capture a suspect believed to be behind the assassination of a former Cambodian lawmaker. The victim, who had been living in exile in Thailand, was shot in what officials suspect was a politically motivated attack. The suspect, whose identity has not been disclosed, is believed to have fled the country after the killing. Thai and Cambodian authorities are working together to track down the perpetrator, with international agencies also monitoring the case.
Yeah, apparently they have arrested somebody. They've detained a Thai man who is suspected of gunning down the Cambodian ex-lawmaker. So, yeah.
Any names?
Not yet. So, they are, they're trying to, there's defamation laws, things like that. So they need to make sure that the evidence stacks up in the right kind of way. But, this is just a crazy case because he was an opposition leader living in exile in Thailand, of all places, which is weird because Thailand has deported people back to Cambodia for saying things against the government. It's also strange that a Thai man would carry this out. Somebody that doesn't have any stakes in the game, like in Cambodian politics. So questions of whether this might have been like a gun for hire situation. But we're going to keep our eye on the story because it is a very high profile case. Political assassinations appear to be on the rise in recent years, and in Southeast Asia, that is no exception. So, all right.
Is this me now?
No,
you.
it's me.
Malaysia.
I'm taking the boring ones for you. Don't worry. No, it's not boring. Malaysia's very interesting, and Malaysia is got some news about its, the future of its economic prospects. There's been a lot of talk about modernizing the economy. Of course, they're big on Bitcoin too.
Yep.
But Malaysia is positioning itself as a hub for energy and the semiconductor manufacturing industry, driven by robust investment growth and economic stability. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim highlighted a strong rebound in 2024, citing record investments in renewable energy and AI infrastructure, stable inflation, and top-performing stock market. The country aims to excel in oil and gas, semiconductors, and Islamic finance, with plans to develop Malaysia's made GPUs and chips within 5 to 10 years to meet growing AI and data center demands. Accounting for 13% of global semiconductor testing and packaging, Malaysia targets over $100 billion in investments while attracting firms like Intel and Infineon. Recent digital investments from companies like Google have bolstered its economic outlook. Trying to modernize, I've been meeting with plenty of Malaysian government officials lately at the crypto conference that we went to recently. I've done a podcast with Malaysia's ambassador to Thailand, and they are very open-minded and progressive when it comes to developing their economy, and this is just yet another sign of it. So very interesting. Also curious, what does Islamic finance mean?
Islamic finance? It's when you go to the bank and your clerk is Muslim.
I guess so. That's pretty much all I can make of it, but I don't know what the difference is. Maybe there's a difference in targeting what kind of businesses you do. No haram businesses, things like that. That could be
no haram businesses.
No, halal only. Yeah, haram. No,
I get that. Oh. What's a halal business?
Not haram.
But that, obviously.
It's kosher, but the Islamic way. It's A-okay.
All right.
Unclear. I don't really know what it means, but if you do know, let me know in the comments. I'm curious.
We're going to move on to Philippines now, where the Philippines Black Nazarene procession draws hundreds of thousands. Over 400,000 barefoot devotees participated in Manila's Black Nazarene procession, one of the largest displays of Catholic faith globally. The life-size statue of Jesus Christ carrying a cross was paraded along a 5.8-kilometer route as devotees sought blessings by pulling its carriage and touching the image. Many believe the Black Nazarene improves lives, as reflected by testimonies from longtime followers. The annual tradition, rooted in 300 years of Spanish colonization, commemorates the statue's 17th century relocation to Quiapo Church.
Yeah, so
Jesus, take the wheel.
They are very Catholic over in the Philippines, I gotta tell you. I remember... So when I was in the Philippines, I've been a few times. I had a tour guide who not only invited me to a cockfight, a very big part of the culture over there in rural Philippines. Yeah. Before we did, he took me to his house, which was like a little shack by the beach, where he, of course, introduced me to his prize cockfighting chicken.
Yeah.
Well, okay, fascinating. And his 12 children.
Wow.
This guy was like 31 or 32 or something like that. I was like,
Nice.
whoa, you are
Yeah.
busy over there and not a fan of protection, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Busy bee, buzz.
Indeed. When a Catholic procession like this comes through town, you better believe it is going to get swamped with devotees. So,
All right.
woo, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're winning some countries over in Southeast Asia, that's for sure.
The confusing thing about religion sometimes, I had a lot of Filipino friends, and that's when I realized that even the Catholics had like different divisions. Like you can be a unorthodox and Protestant, and it's still an issue if you fall in love with, I don't know, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, no, this is I'm a history
It's like
teacher.
a whole nother religion
I can
if you're a
take you down this
Protestant
road.
or an unorthodox.
Protestant, there's the Anglican Church, the
unorthodox.
Church of England, the split with the Catholics after Martin Luther translated the Bible so that the layman, before Martin Luther translated the Bible, here's the fun thing, it was all written in Latin, which is basically like a dead language. So Catholic priests were kind of like these witch doctors, these keepers of secret knowledge and ancient knowledge that most normal people couldn't read the Bible. So that placed a lot of trust and faith in the Catholic Church and gave them a lot of power. Martin Luther was a guy.
Do you mean Martin Luther King?
No, Martin Luther.
Okay, Martin
15th
Luther.
century
15th century
revolutionary.
Martin Luther, of course.
Martin Luther King, named after him.
Of course.
And then he translated it, which allowed people to be like, hey, wait, this Catholic guy, he's not telling the truth. He's giving us the whole story here, which led to the Church of England, and then of course America. We're more Protestant than Catholic, but places like Spain, when they colonized in France, they brought that Catholicism with them. Anyways, sorry, I'm a
I
history
switched
teacher.
off when you said religion.
Yeah, I like this stuff. I think it's fun to know our history.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Those are some of the stories from across Thailand and ASEAN. You can find... Excuse me.
What can we find?
You can find more stories on thetiger.com. Yeah. And of course, join in the conversation at ASEAN Now.
Indeed. It is Thailand's largest expat forum and rapidly growing around the region. Yeah.
It is, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Let's dive into the live chat.